This lecture is about chapter 9. It's called International Trade. This chapter is about international trade. Okay. So what we are going to do here is use the supply and demand model that we learned throughout this class. We used that model, added other concepts, deepened our understanding of it, including elasticities and welfare, like consumer surplus and producer surplus and taxes. And we're going to put it all together and study international trade. Okay, so when we studied our classic model, okay, let me draw this out. We had this market for pizza. Okay, we had the price of pizza, the unit price of pizza, and quantity of pizza. And then we had this demand and supply for pizza. And then we have point A, which is happy-go-lucky equilibrium, and P star and Q star. We drew this for a market pizza in a particular area. Could be United States, it could be Costa Mesa, it could be Los Angeles, it could be New York City. And our assumption here was that all consumers and all producers operated in that same market. So suppose this was the pizza market for LA, Los Angeles, then all consumers and all producers were located in Los Angeles. Okay, we did not allow San Francisco consumers to buy these LA pizzas, nor do we allow LA pizza makers to sell to New York City. It was all self-contained within LA. This is called a closed economy. Okay. Why is it a closed economy? Because it doesn't trade. All the sellers and buyers are within one market. In this case, Los Angeles. Okay. So definition of a closed economy, I'm going to put it up here. Is an economy that does not trade with other economies. All our analysis up until now was a study of a closed economy or a closed market. Okay, it only allowed Los Angeles producers and Los Angeles consumers. All right, what we are going to do now is expand this to allow for international trade. And when we do this, and we allow for international trade, we're going to make certain assumptions. Okay, and then I'm going to have to introduce to you certain definitions. So let me do that right now. Okay. Assumptions and definitions. What we are going to do is only study quote unquote small economies. And we're going to see what happens when a small economy opens up for trade. What does it mean by small economy? It cannot influence the international markets once this quote small economy opens its border for trade. We're not going to study what happens if a large economy, large country like United States open up for trade. Why? Because when a country like United States or China opens up for trade, it influences the world market. It influences the supply and demand in the world. And that makes our analysis more complicated. And it doesn't add much addition to in studying. It just complicates it for introductory class, such as our class. We're going to first take a small bite in international trade and see what happens when a small economy opens up for trade. Okay. It's a small economy. Its imports and exports contribute insignificantly to the world quantity. So the price that prevails in the world is not affected. Okay. We're not allowing for US. We're going to talk about a small country like Tahiti. What happens if Tahiti opens its market for trade? I'm going to introduce a new term called world price, or PW. This is the price of that good, in this case pizza, that prevails all around the world. Okay. And this world price is going to be given to the small economy. The small economy cannot influence the world price. The P star is going to be it's going to be now called the domestic price. That's the equilibrium price for the small economy without trade. Okay, that's set by the Tahiti's or domestic demand and supply curve, this P star. Okay. And this is going to be the opportunity cost of the good in the domestic market. Okay, I'm going to explain more what that means. Domestic production is QS. That's created from the domestic supply curve. And domestic consumption is QD. And that is produced by the domestic demand curve, not supply curve. This is wrong. Okay, my notes are wrong. This should say demand, domestic demand curve. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to draw a diagram and study what happens. Okay, let me clear this. Let's do this. Okay, this is scenario 1. I'm going to introduce you a couple of scenarios. And under this scenario, small economy opens for trade and becomes an exporter. Okay, so this country is going to open up its for trade and it's going to become an exporter. Let's see how that happens. Okay, we have the domestic market. So Tahiti, and this is the price of pizza. Pizza market. And this is the quantity of pizza. This is demand, supply. Okay, point A, P star, Q star. So this is domestic production, and consumption is Q star, and the domestic price is star. So when Tahiti decides to open up for trade, it's faced with the world price. And in this situation, when it opened up for trade, when the king or president of Tahiti decides they want to trade pizza with the rest of the world price is all the way up here. Okay. So let's see what happens. Okay. Let's see the logic and the intuition of what happens now. Okay. Let's see the domestic suppliers. Okay, so let's take a step back. The Tahiti opens up for trade, and let's say Wall Street Journal and whatever, Financial Times, LA Times, all of them report Tahiti is going to open its pizza market for trade. And Pizza Hut of United States and Domino's of China and Pizza Hut of Russia, they're all going to study Tahiti and see, is this a market we want to sell to? Okay. And let's say the world price here is like $8 a slice, and the domestic price, the price at Tahiti, is $5 a slice. Okay. And they're going to be like, wait a minute, we're making $8 selling pizza in China, in Japan, in Korea, and in US and Mexico. Why would we sell pizza for $5 in Tahiti? That doesn't make sense. So they don't want to sell pizza in Tahiti. No one's interested in importing pizza to, or selling or exporting pizza into Tahiti. Tahiti is not going to have much import of pizza because no one's interested in exporting to Tahiti. Now let's look at Tahiti producers. They're going to look at this and they're like, I could sell pizza at Main Street in Tahiti for $5 each, or I could sell it in Vietnam and Singapore and in the United States for $8 each. And let's assume there's no transportation costs for simple. Let's make it simple and stupid. So what's going to happen is Tahiti producers, they're going to just sell pizza to, they're going to just export all their pizza to around the world. Tahiti's Domino's, Tahiti's Pizza Hut, they're just going to sell pizza in Singapore, US, and Mexico. They're not going to sell pizza at home for $5. They're going to sell it outside. They're going to export all their pizza. So what has to happen to the price of pizza in Tahiti for pizza to be sold there? What has to happen is that the domestic price for pizza has to creep up to 8. Okay? So price of pizza in Tahiti has to go up to $8 a slice in order to entice Tahiti Pizza Hut to start selling some pizza in Tahiti. When this happens, when the domestic price of pizza moves up to $8 a slice, or the world price, okay, everybody and their grandmother is going to sell pizza in Tahiti. Quantity supply is going to go out here, but quantity demanded in Tahiti is going to fall to here. Okay, so let's say at $5 there was 100 slices being bought and sold, but at $8 a slice, everybody and their grandmother wants to sell pizza. So let's say 200 slices are being made. Only 50 slices are sold domestically in Tahiti. There's an excess supply of pizza. In this case, the excess supply is 150 slices. And this is export. This is going to be exported to around the world. Okay. All right, so that's what happens. Let me write that out. Copy it from the notes, send it out. When Tahiti opens up for trade, okay, I'm going to summarize what I just said. I wrote it out. And if the domestic price is less than the world price, there's no incentive for the rest of the world to sell pizza to Tahiti. There's no incentive for the domestic producers to sell in Tahiti as well, because they have an incentive for these domestic producers to sell outside of Tahiti. They're not going to sell for $5 in Tahiti. They're going to sell it outside to Singapore for $8 a slice. Okay, this country has a comparative advantage because its price of pizza is at $5, is lower than the world price. Okay. And this small country, in this case Tahiti, is exporting goods to the rest of the world. And we see how to calculate the export. Okay. Eventually, for pizza to be sold in Tahiti, its price of pizza domestically has to go up to the world price. Okay. And then what's going to happen is we're going to have production be all the way out here, consumption be all the way down here. And the difference, the excess supply of pizza domestically of 200 minus 50 or 150 slices are exported. Okay, now let's do opposite day. And we'll do what happens. How does Tahiti become an importer? Let's do scenario 2. Okay, so in this scenario, Tahiti opens up for trade and becomes an importer of pizza. So let's see how that happens. It's quantity of pizza, price of pizza, Tahiti pizza market. Here's demand. Here's supply. Here's happy-go-lucky equilibrium domestically. P star, we'll say that's $5 a slice. Q star, which is, I don't know, 100 slices. And that's the Tahiti market without trade. And Tahiti, again, it's a prime minister or a king decides to open up for trade. And the world price for pizza is all the way down here at $2 a slice. Okay. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so Tahiti is going to open up for trade. Wall Street Journal, everybody reports that Tahiti is opening up for trade. And let's see what happens. Well, what's going to happen is some initial companies that planned early, let's say the US Domino's and the Mexican Pizza Hut, they come into Tahiti first. Okay. And what they're going to do is they see that the domestic market or Tahiti's market is $5 a slice, and the world price, the price that they get in Singapore and Mexico and all around the world except for Tahiti, is $2. So they're going to come in. These initial entrants are going to come in, and they're going to charge $4.99. Okay, they're going to charge right below the domestic price. And what happens? Tahiti citizens decide, oh, these are generic pizzas. Okay, remember, we have perfect competition. All the pizzas are identical. So why should I buy Tahiti pizza for $5 when I could get a Singapore pizza for $4.99? And US Domino's comes in and charges $4.98. And Mexican Pizza Hut comes in, charge $4.97. And what's going to happen is all the foreign pizza is going to undercut each other. And they're going to sell pizza for $2 a slice, whatever the going rate. That's the going rate for pizza all around the world. So all the foreign pizza, foreign to Tahiti pizza, US Domino's, Canadian, Papa John's. All of them are going to cost $2 each. Okay. And then what happens after that? You got the Tahiti domestic producers, they're trying to charge $5 each. No one's going to buy their pizza. Maybe they'll do marketing. Buy Tahiti, buy Tahiti. No one cares. Why should I buy Tahiti pizza for $5 each when a perfectly good Chinese Little Caesar pizza costs $2 each? So eventually, what will happen is the Tahiti producers has to reduce their prices to compete. And the domestic producers in Tahiti is going to lower their price as well and follow the world price. Okay. And when that happens, everybody and their grandmother wants to buy pizza. I don't know, 200 slices. But a lot of domestic producers go out of business. So they used to sell 100 slices. Now they only sell 50 slices. You have a difference here. Okay. You have something called excess demand for pizza. And that is equal to 150 slices. And that is met by imports. Okay. Out of the 200 slices being demanded in Tahiti, 50 is produced by Tahiti Pizza Hut, and they're satisfying the domestic consumption. Well, 150, there's a shortage of 150 slices of pizza or excess demand. And that's met by imports. Okay. So let me write out and summarize what I just said. When Tahiti opens up for trade, and the domestic price is greater than the world price, foreign producers start selling in the small economy at a price slightly lower than the domestic price. With competition, the foreign producers cut prices down to PW, or the world price. Domestic producers cannot sell products at P star anymore. They have to lower the price to PW. And that causes quantity demanded to increase while quantity supplied domestically decreases. The difference is met by imports. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, now that you learned about what happens, scenario one, when a small economy opens for trade and becomes a net exporter, and scenario two, when a small economy opens for trade and becomes a net importer, what we are going to do is study the welfare effect of this. Okay. Does the economy gain? Does the small economy, Tahiti, gain from trade? So let's study this. Okay. Okay. So let me put the price of pizza. That's the unit price, quantity of pizza, and we have demand. We have supply. Okay. This is P star, Q star, and this is a exporter, PW. This is quantity demanded domestically, quantity supplied domestically. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is make a table. Okay. To the right, you have consumer surplus, Producer surplus, total surplus. Oh, we have before. We'll call this without trade. Without trade. With trade. And change. Okay, change, triangle meaning change. Without, what happens to consumer surplus? Without trade, with trade, what did it change by? Okay, so I'm gonna have to put up letters here. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. Consumer surplus without trade. It's A plus B plus C. This is the demand curve. This is the domestic price. So it's the area that's cut between the demand curve and domestic price, A, B, and C. Producer surplus is just E plus F. Again, here's the domestic price. That's the price that they receive. That's the supply curve. That's what producer surplus is. And total surplus is A plus B plus C plus E plus F. A, B, C, E, F. Okay. With trade, consumer surplus is just A. The domestic price or the world price, and they're equal. That's the price that consumers pay. In Tahiti is PW, and this is demand, so it's A. Producer surplus is B plus C plus D plus E plus F. World price is the price that they charge and receive, and the supply curve, that's the area. Total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F. All right. So without trade, consumer surplus was A. With trade, consumer surplus, A, B, and C. With trade, it's just A. So it's minus B minus C. Consumers lose. What about producers? Looks like they gain. They gain B plus C plus D. Well, total surplus, C, B minus B, they cancel. C minus C, they cancel. So the total surplus gains by D. We could see when a country opens up for trade and becomes a net exporter. Okay, when a country opens up for trade and they become a net exporter, consumers lose. Okay, let's write that out. We see consumers lose. Producers win. And the total economy wins. Overall, the economy gains from trade when it becomes a net exporter. Yeah, consumers are made worse off because they have to pay more, but producers gain, and overall, the economy gains. Now let's see what happens when a country opens up for trade and becomes a net importer. Okay. Here's quantity of pizza, price of pizza, demand, supply, star, Q star. The world price is down here, PW. And then we have consumer surplus, producer surplus, total surplus, without trade, with trade, and change. Okay. I'll put in some letters now. A, B, C, D, E. All right. Consumer surplus without trade, just A. Demand, price that they charge, or they are charged, or they pay. Producer surplus, B plus E. Here's the price supply curve. It's a triangle that's created by that. A plus B plus E is total surplus. With trade, consumer surplus is A plus B plus C plus D. This is the price that they pay now. This is the demand. So it's a triangle created from those two lines. Producer surplus is just E. Total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus E. Let's see what happened. Consumer surplus gained by B, C, and D. Producers lost B. And total surplus, we had a gain, C plus D. We could see consumers win, producers lose, and overall the economy wins with trade. With trade, and a country becomes a net importer. Consumers win, producers, domestic producers lose. Yeah, because a lot of them get out of business. They cannot compete with the low prices. They go out of business. And overall, the economy wins. Okay. This is what happens to a country like the United States. We're a consumer-focused economy, and we gain from free trade. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is tariffs. Okay, what are tariffs? So we're going to study, are tariffs a good policy? Okay. Tariffs are taxes on imports. So they're not taxes on every good that's being sold, only the imported products are taxed. Okay. So let's see the welfare effect of putting in a tariff. Okay. So first thing I want to do is study what happens when you put in a tariff, and then we're going to study the welfare effect. Are tariffs a good policy? So this is a country that imports pizza. Okay, here's the domestic price, P star without trade, Q star without trade, and then you had a world price, PW. This is the quantity being made domestically. This is the quantity that is being purchased domestically. Okay. And then what happens is the government says, oh my God, the world price sucks. It's too low. It's putting our businesses, it's taking them out, and they're going out of our domestic pizza producers are going out of business. So we're going to put a tariff in. Okay. A tariff of T in. So every pizza being sold that's produced, that is imported or produced abroad, they can't be sold at PW anymore. They have to be sold at PW plus T. Okay. So you have this new one, PW plus T. So all imported pizza are being sold at PW plus T. Okay. But guess what? If imported pizza are being sold at a higher price, then what do you think domestic producers are going to do? Do you think they're going to sell at just PW? No, they're going to raise their price that they charge up to the world plus price plus T. Okay, we'll call this PW prime. Everybody's going to sell pizza at PW prime. Okay. And what we see is as domestic production increases, But because the price in Tahiti went up from PW to PW prime, some consumers leave it. They don't, it's not worth it to buy pizza anymore. So domestic consumption falls. And you could also see imports fall. Because before imports, excuse me, imports were out here. Okay? Now imports are lower. Okay. Import fell from this to this. Okay. And the tariffs, but government, they make some money now. They charge a tariff. This is the tariff right there. And they charge it on imports. And remember, imports is this. So the tariff revenue is this right here. This is tariff revenue. Okay. So at least the government brings in some tariff revenue, and they could use it to build parks and make the Tahiti a better place to live. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is erase some of these parts and do a welfare effect. Okay. I'm going to study what happens. Does the welfare of Tahiti increase when you put tariffs in? Okay, so let's look at this. So we're going to have consumer surplus, producer surplus, government surplus, or we're going to have tariff revenue, tariff rev or tariff revenue, and then total surplus. And this is without tariff. This is with tariff and change. What happened to consumer surplus, producer surplus, tariff revenue, and total surplus once tariffs are implemented? Okay. So in order for me, I deleted something. So let me put in demand curve. And then, oh, I didn't realize I deleted stuff. Put in other things. There. Okay. So in order for me to study this, I gotta put in 8 letters. So here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. All right. Consumer surplus without tariffs. Here's the demand curve, and this was the price. So it's the triangle created from the demand curve and PW. So it's A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F. Oh, no, that's not enough. Plus G. Producer surplus was just H. Tariff revenue, how much tariff was being collected without tariff? That's just 0. And then total surplus is above, which is A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F plus G plus H. With tariffs, consumer surplus becomes A, B, and C. Okay, this is the demand curve, and PW prime is the new price. So it's that triangle. Producer surplus is H plus D. Tariff revenue, well, again, is this area here, which is F. And total surplus is A plus B plus C plus D plus F plus H. So let's see what happened to consumer surplus. They lost minus D, minus E, minus F, minus G. What happened to producer surplus? They gained D. Tariff, they gained F. So total surplus, we lost E and we lost G. Okay. When the government implements tariff, we lose E and G from society. That is being lost to the economy. Again, E and G is the dead weight loss of implementing a tariff. You could see when tariffs are implemented, the economy as a whole loses. Consumers lose. Okay. Guess who gains? Producers. Domestic producers are the winners. Okay. Losers. Okay. Losers. So it's the producers of the firms, domestic producers, that are the winners. So all these tariffs that are, being people who want to put in tariffs, bans on Chinese products. Well, guess what? Guess who loses? US consumers lose. Okay. We lose because we pay higher prices. All right. That is pretty much it for this chapter. Okay. We're done with the lecture. Thank you very much. Have a good day.